What's going on, everybody? I'm Saimir Shogun. You're you. This is a screen of some kind, and you're watching YouTube, but most importantly, Saimir Shogun's YouTube. Today, we're reacting to Are Anteaters Overpowered by Tierzu. Now, we haven't watched a Tierzu video on this channel in months, and I've been waiting, lying in wait, lying down like a cheetah looking at its prey in the Sahara Desert, waiting for a chance to react to another video, and today is that day. Now, I don't know anything about anteaters. The one thing I do know is that Arthur, no, he's an aardvark, huh? Is aardvark and anteater the same thing? Guess we're gonna find out today. Stay tuned. Huh? Yeah. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe, and let me know what's your favorite anteater from like fiction or something like that. I don't know. Whoosh! Again, this video is by Tierzu, so again, you guys are probably watching him. But if you're not, check him out. He makes great content. I love it. But let's see if he can inform us on some anteater knowledge. Why did I think that was real? Oh, that looks actually pretty good.
Ants are one of the most overpowered factions in the game. Their go-wide-you social strategy is essentially unbeatable, to the point where they control wide swaths of the overworld pretty much uncontested. Even the human build, the undisputed top tier in the current meta, has trouble keeping ants at bay. And with their huge variety of incredible abilities, from acidic projectiles and powerful stingers to coordinated attack strategies and terraforming abilities,
yeah, it is kind of crazy.
I don't think it's much of a surprise that ants are such a meta-defining force.
Damn.
And yet, there's one build which can obliterate an entire colony in only a few minutes, the Anteater. But does having a super favorable matchup against one of the game's top tier builds actually translate into the Anteater being top tier itself? There's so much more to the Anteater build than just being able to solo an entire colony of ants with ease. So in today's video, we'll discuss all
anteaters,
the
they
abilities
look
and
crazy
weaknesses of the Anteater build.
They look like some kind of prehistoric animal.
Anteaters are only playable on the South America server, in both jungle and savanna biomes. And this is not an easy server to try to carve a niche into. I know I drone on a lot about how OP African builds are, but the Amazon rainforest is home to some of the most fearsome predators in the game, inclung the snake build with the largest size, and
I hate snakes. I despise snakes. It's like, bro, why? Imagine if snakes had arms, like not like crocodile type arms, but like arms with fingers, and they're like, like they still like this, like, give me that. Terrifying.
The Felid build with the most powerful bites, among many other incredibly dangerous creatures. Meanwhile, the Anteater's closest living relative is the Sloth, a build with so many devastating flaws that I currently rate it as the mammal furthest down on the tier list. Damn. So how is it that the Anteater is able to survive such a hostile metagame? Well, they may be closely related to the pathetic moss-covered slugs that Human Faith builds named one of the 7 deadly sins after, but they're also related to this, Megatherium, the gigantic ground sloth that was capable of one-shotting the saber-tooth. And in my opinion, anteaters take after this type of sloth. To see what I mean, let's look at their stats. There is some variation among different anteaters.
See, unless they can take that tongue out and like use it like a whip, like, I don't know what they got offensively. Because like, yeah, you cool against ants, but like, how big of a buff is that? You know, you gotta have something offensive for like the other big players,
which we'll get into later in this video. But for now, we're gonna focus on the giant anteater. Pulling up the analysis, 2 things jump out right away. The first is their shockingly high HP stat. While they don't have any major form of armor, the Anteater can still shake off a surprising amount of damage, even from attacks that might normally one-shot most players. This is crucial as it allows the Anteater a chance to survive ambushes by jaguars, which is pretty incredible given that jaguars frequently one-shot crocodilians. But this is also extremely important because it provides an opportunity for the Anteater's other surprisingly high stat to become relevant. That stat being their attack power.
What? Their attack power is high too? What do they have?
Attack power stat might look like a mistake, especially given that Anteaters don't even have teeth.
Hey, yo!
And are completely locked out of using the move Bite. However, once you get past the head and look down, you realize that at the end of their massive gorilla arms, anteaters have pickaxe-shaped claws as big as those of a grizzly bear, except the anteater's claws are even sharper because they walk on their knuckles to avoid wearing them down. These incredible weapons are what allow the anteater to tear through the cement-like walls of termite mounds with ease. But they come with the nice side benefit of being able to absolutely eviscerate any player who fails to kill them in one hit. Their slashes can easily deal lethal damage, so any predator looking to ambush an anteater needs to make sure they have what it takes to finish the job before the anteater can counterattack. And this threat alone is often enough to dissuade attacks in the first place. While the anteater's matchup with the jaguar is of course important, it wouldn't be fair to the anteater player base if I didn't comment on their matchup versus eusocial insect colonies. The anteater's 2-foot-long tongue is covered in a glue-like substance and can flick in and out over 150 times per minute, which can take out dozens of insects per flick and decimate a colony in no time. However,
I feel uncomfortable about that. I don't like that. That makes me feel uncomfortable, to be honest. Got me itching. Oh. Imagine a anteater giving you a wet willy. Ooh.
Sloth brethren, anteaters opted for a slower metabolism. This comes with downsides, which we'll cover later, but it does mean that they don't need to consume an entire colony of ants, and can actually leave the colony in a damaged but recoverable state. This is a highly sustainable method of farming XP because it ensures that the anteater player can simply return to the same termite mound or anthill later on, tear into it again, and the colony will have replenished its supply of workers enough that they can just do the same thing again. It also means the anteater doesn't need to be at any one colony for very long, which is good because despite how powerful their offensive tools are at destroying a colony of insects, anteaters don't actually have any unique defensive abilities to avoid the damage from the swarm of militant insects they've just provoked, and have to rely solely on their HP to soak up the damage. Of course, as mentioned prior, because of their high HP stat, anteaters are well equipped to tank a lot of hits. But the acid attacks launched by termites and ants certainly aren't something they can—
I would assume like they were like the honey badger, where they had like some kind of special resistance to that stuff. Damn, so I mean, I guess he just evolved for the damage? I thought you would just evolve for the durability too. Like, I mean, I guess if you got high durability already, you kind of just like negate any of the bites, but still.
Just ignore for extended durations. The rest of the anteater stats are fairly lackluster. Anteaters aren't as sluggish as sloths, but because of their slow metabolism, they do have a below average movement speed. Given that they've spec'd into massive claws on their forelimbs, rather than more mobility favoring options like paws or hooves, I don't think this low speed is too surprising. It's a worthy trade-off in my opinion. Their stealth stat is also middle of the road. They don't stick out as bad as some builds, but aren't the best camouflaged either. The anteater can hide under its bushy tail, disguising itself as a bush while also shielding itself.
Oh, that's crazy.
But as far as plant-style disguises go, there are certainly more impressive.
I didn't realize they had tails.
The anteater's intelligence isn't great either. They'd form quite a formidable force.
Bro was in your mouth. Bro was tonguing you.
Groups, yet rarely engage in team strategies, if ever. Their last main weakness is their poor eyesight. It's a good thing they don't go down in one hit, because the tiny eyes on the sides of their heads do not give them the best odds at detecting an ambush before the attacker is within striking range. Next, let's delve into some of the individual variants of the anteater.
Okay, so there are some different
ones. The giant anteater is by far the most powerful, at the cost of its mobility. The giant anteater is the only variant that lacks the ability to climb trees. Despite their claws being phenomenal for hooking into trees, giant anteaters simply are too cumbersome to venture into the canopy. There are two other variants of the anteater build, and both variants are much better at climbing. First is the Tamandua. This mid-sized anteater a slightly lower base power and hit point stat than the giant anteater, but in exchange it has unlocked a powerful new ability, a prehensile tail. This perk allows the user to use its tail essentially as a fifth appendage, granting it additional resistance to being knocked down while browsing high up in the treetops. Because of its lower HP stat, this build can't tank acid damage as well as the giant anteater, and so it needs to avoid high tier ant builds like the leafcutter ant. The final variant is the pygmy anteater.
Ew, oh my god, ew. Yeah, no, no, extinct that one. How did bro evolve? He evolved in a lab. I don't like that at all.
Build that invests more into its stealth than other stats, drastically cutting its—
The reason why it's so good at stealth because no one want to look at it.
Bulk and damage in turn. In my opinion, the pygmy anteater is a bit too similar to the sloth build for me to consider it competitively viable, but to each their own. Although the ability to climb does come in handy for escaping predators, the giant anteater doesn't seem to miss it much. While the other variants need to worry about attacks from eagles, the giant anteater's bulk is enough to protect it from most threats. Its matchup versus the jaguar is still pretty risky, but it's better than most. So I'm going to give the giant anteater a rating of A tier, while the tamandua gets a rank of B tier, and the pygmy anteater gets a D tier rank. One of the most effective ways to lock in a high placement on the tier list is to have high base stats.
Yep.
And while most stats require millions of years of evolution to change, intelligence is one of the few stats which can be leveled up, provided you have the right sort of training. In
Are they
today's
smart?
meta, abilities like coding and
Come on, tell me they're
mathematics
smart.
are extremely useful. They're tough to learn, unless you got a really effective course designed
That's an
to
ad.
intuitively guide you
I didn't even
through
know it was an
concepts. That's precisely where today's sponsor, Brilliant, comes in. Brilliant is an online learning
This is
platform
all
which
just
uses
the
fun,
ad?
interactive courses to help you level up those
This is all
science and
just the
engineering
ad.
skills.
Alright, you know how I am. You know how I am with the ads. If I ain't getting the ad, no one is. That is crazy. I did not know anteaters had like that much going for them. Like even the durability, I thought they were like one taps, honestly. That thing with the tongue still kind of haunting. You know, even more haunting than Christian, which we just reacted to last Wednesday, or the Wednesday that just happened. So go check that out if you haven't already. But yeah, I appreciate you guys sitting through this with me. Make sure to comment what your favorite. Now that we know the anteater types, which one's your favorite? Is it the giant, the not so giant, and the small? That's the names. I was a zoologist for 5 years, but yeah. Make sure you have a great morning, night, and afternoon, depending on which one for you. Make sure you eat, sleep, and drink. I've been Saimir Shogun. Don't let an anteater lick your ear, and goodbye.